Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio, welcoming you to another edition of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Carl E. Moyler. We'll be discussing his fantastic book on freedom and revolt. Available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or if you guys want to get everything that Carl has to offer, do yourself a favor and go directly to his personal site on freedomandrevolt.com. There, not only will you be able to find more information on Carl himself, but you'll find more information on the book, as well as find a hyperlink set up to take you directly to the purchasing page. So one more time, that's on freedomandrevolt.com. And I will say, Carl was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by some of the best movers in the business. UR Link Print and Media Publishing. So if you have a book that you'd like moved, move it through UR Link. You can find them at urlinkpublishing.com. And guys, listen, it is an absolute pleasure to have Carl here on the line. First and foremost, he's a returning guest. Okay, we've had him on the line before to discuss this book, and it went so well, we had to bring him back on. I mean, the book is that impactful. It's that powerful, okay? And the moment you go to his Amazon page, the moment you go to his direct website on freedomandrevolt.com, and you start to do any research on the book, and right there on the cover, I mean, two historical figures, larger than life, that I'm sure a lot of you have heard of. Of course, Martin Luther King, we all know him, right? Here in the States, a huge influence on the civil rights movement. But also Albert Camus, a civil rights leader as well, but he was from Africa. And we're really going to be talking and contrasting both of these huge figures and really examining the correlations between their lives. So without further ado, Carl, first and foremost, thank you once again for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Doing fine for an old fella. Doing great, in fact. I tell people all the time, if I were doing any better, I wouldn't be able to stand it.
There you go. Fantastic. Well, listen, again, it's a pleasure to have you back on to discuss this book. Now, I know we have a lot of information to cover. So before we get into the book itself, Carl, let's hold off slightly. Start by telling our listening audience a little bit more about yourself.
Okay. I'll be glad to do that. My name is Carl Moyler. I'm originally born in Newport News, Virginia in 1932, but I've been here in Dayton, Ohio since 1957. And I came here to work as a teacher at a local high school. And I did teach there for about 12 years at Colonel White High School in Dayton, Ohio. And then from there, I went to I was assistant principal there also. And from that, I went to a principalship at Jefferson Township High School in Dayton also. And I worked there for 3 years, and then I went to Urbana University, Ohio, and I worked there for 3 years. Sounds like I'm going around, and I was at that time, a young man, okay. And I ended up with the Dayton Public Schools, but not before I did 12 years teaching at Wilberforce University. Okay. And during that time, I also started doing my other work. I got a bachelor's degree in foreign languages from West Virginia State College in West Virginia, Charleston, West Virginia. And from there, I went on to get a master's degree from Case Western Reserve, a master's degree in French. Actually in languages, okay, French, Spanish, and German. I had a double major. And then I was still working in public schools. But after that, I went to Urbana University, and I was over there for 3 years. And then I went to Wilberforce University. I was there for 12 years. And I was teaching as well as becoming a professor, okay? And from there, I opened my own private business, which was called the Don Pablo Academy. And I had that business for 10 years. And I'm just recently retired from there finally, after 63 years in education, teaching, and having my own private small business academy. So I've had a very pleasant, for me at least, pleasant life in the area of education altogether. As I said before, I retired after 63 years of being a teacher, and I've enjoyed every minute of it, and I'm still looking forward to doing some other things related to teaching now that I'm out and not having to go in by 8 o'clock every weekday morning, okay? So things have gone well for me. My wife, Sylvia, she was a Dayton girl that I met and married when I came here to Dayton. And we have two sons. John, he's deceased. He was a doctor. And David, he's working in Silver Springs, Maryland right now as a teacher also. So I'm doing things in retirement that I wasn't able to do when I was going to school or when I was working. And, of course, I got the Ph.D. After being at Case Western Reserve, I did my master's degree thesis there on Albert Camus. And then when I left there, I went to Wilberforce, and I wanted to get a doctorate degree there since I was working at the college level, and I did. And already having been exposed to Camus, I did my best to continue with him in my PhD work. But the more I checked out on Camus, the more I learned about Martin Luther King, because everything that I found that Camus was complaining about or trying to make better, Camus was trying to do the same thing. That is to bring freedom and justice to all people. In the case of Camus, it was done in North Africa and in France. And in the case of Camus, all over these United States. So that, let me see what else I want to. Okay, yes, in 2007, I always let people know about that. 2007, I was elected the Alumnus of the Year of West Virginia State University.
Wow.
Elected by the alumni who are all over the United States. But when they came in with the names of the 8 or 9 people who had been nominated for the award, I was the one that was chosen. So I was happy about that. I was glad. Okay. So I'm still working on things that I said doing after I retired, and I'm doing that. And my wife is also retired. She's a retired high school mathematics teacher, by the way. So as I said earlier, we came here and I got together with Sylvia. Sylvia is her name, and we've been married now for 60 years. This coming August, we'll be married for 60 years. We've been together, and we built a house here in Dayton that we still live in. And this house is 50 years old now, but we've been here all 50 years. And we're doing well, okay? So we're carrying on. We're carrying
Fantastic.
on. Okay, so that's a brief resume of what I've been doing. I've been very busy. These 63 years in education.
Absolutely.
I've loved every day of it.
Listen, Carl, listen, man, I know that we're here to discuss on freedom and revolt, and we're going to get to that in a second. Next time we have you on our show, we're not going to discuss on freedom and revolt again. We're just going to discuss your background because it is remarkably impressive. All of the accolades in which you've been able to achieve over the years. Congratulations, man. It absolutely incredible. You are clearly a person of distinction. You are the ideal candidate to have on our network. We are very excited for the education we're going to receive. Guys, sit back, strap in. Let's get ready. Carl, without further ado, let's jump in on freedom and revolt. Tell us a little bit about your book.
This book is dedicated to all those heroes and heroines who have seen and will see life as a daring adventure. To be given in the name of service to humanity, to justice, and to freedom. Martin Luther King Jr. and Albert Camus are two first-class role models who lived out their passion for justice and freedom. Neither man was willing to stand in the presence of racism, tyranny, oppression, exploitation, murder, war, ethnic supremacy, Holocaust, and do nothing. Therefore, with all this on their plate and wanting to do something about it, they jumped into the game. They revolted with others for freedom. Their literary works reflect this civil rights quotation. For all who have sought to make a difference in the lives of men by their service and life, and to lighten the dark worlds, the dark places of the earth. It's a description there. That's a description that I saw when I was doing the research on Camus. Description on the wall of the Civil Rights Museum, 16th Street Civil Rights Museum in Birmingham, Alabama. Okay. King and Camus were born, reared, and lived as personal witnesses themselves. They saw it. They were involved in it. It touched them. So they want to say, hey, I can't live a full life with what's happening to me. I got to do something about it. So they jumped in the battle to try to make things better. And as we look at what they have written at this particular day and time of our existence in the United States and around the world, they looked at the same thing that many of us were looking at. At the present time, I say, we're going through a generation of people who call right wrong and wrong right. That's what's going on here in these United States and many other places around the world. So if they were living today, it would be a great advantage. It would be a great blessing to the world if those two guys were still alive. So you know what happened to them. King was assassinated in 1968, and Camus was died in an automobile wreck. Camus, even though an agnostic, was the moral conscience of thousands of people, young and old, in Europe, the United States, and other places. He was able to impart to generations, as I pick it up out of his books, generations past and present, a vision on hope and courage that gave optimism to doubt and uncertainty. Likewise, Dr. Martin Luther King, his nonviolent American civil rights struggle has left a message for present and future times based on his biblical, he's a preacher, teachings and militant nonviolence. Neither one of these guys believe in trying to use violence to try to get freedom and revolt and freedom. Nonviolence, revolt in the face of overwhelming nullification against himself and his followers that is infused with hope, justice, and love. Comparing the writings of these two Nobel laureates and hero scholars, but put forth here as a contribution to the never-ending quest for a more just and more humane world where we coexist in pursuit of being hopefully, my brother's keeper. Okay, so the book, read it. I have gotten outstanding compliments and praises on this book. And one reader of it even said the book is a masterpiece, especially applying to the needs of these present days of hate, oppression, people not getting along together. Everything they wrote about was freedom and revolt in the name of being my brother's keeper. My brother's keeper. Okay. The genre of this book is moral education to people who've been doing the wrong thing, making the wrong decisions. Also, the tyranny, the absolute gross tyranny going on in the world at this time. People going around with guns, killing one another, don't even know them, haven't seen them before, just killing another human being. As if, hey, you're no good. And it's not necessarily black people they're killing, they're also killing white people. And you've read the story about the 6 Asian Americans who were assassinated there in these United States last month, or was it last month? I think it was. Okay. So the book provides moral education, freedom, equality, unity, brotherhood, and justice. That's what both of these guys are writing about. What is the book's overall tone? The overall tone of this book is humans working together in solidarity, and that's one of the key words here, solidarity. Hey, we got to work together if we want to go any place. It's everybody's job, not just one person's job. So let's get it together. And of course, as far as Martin Luther King is concerned, he stuck with it for 13 or 14 years and ended up being assassinated. Okay, so the other side, the wrong people, assassinated him. Okay, who are your book's target audience? Teens, young adults, small business owners? No, indeed. All ages. The book is applicable and readable and says something to all ages. Parents should teach their children to love in brotherhood towards all other human beings. We're all human, made by Jesus, made by God, and we should support one another and appreciate one another on the basis of our humanity instead of on the color of our skin. Next one, specify any awards, honors your books have received. I haven't received any visible honors except just the compliments and appreciation I've received from so many people about what's in this book and what it recommends us to do. Because at the end of the book, chapters 5 and 6, these two men come up with 21 recommendations that are valuable and that can be used to make things that are going so wrong now, if they're used, would make things so right. So that also is one of the things that these guys did. 21 recommendations from two civil rights writers and workers, Camus and Martin Luther King. Okay. What are the points of your book that persuade people to read it? The book is written by two Nobel Prize winners. This is the answer. The book is written by two Nobel Prize winners, Martin Luther King Jr., American, and Albert Camus, French. The books offer recommendations, solutions to the plagues. That's what they call the problems that are going on. Plagues, okay? The plagues of these times, such as racism, oppression, hate, inequality, war, ethnic supremacy, Holocaust, and others. They want to interface that with the things that are on chapters 5 and 6, the 21 recommendations, what we can do. And it's everybody's job. It's not just these guys put it in writing. But if it's going to happen, we have to make it happen. That's up to us. That's what Camus is going to. Hey, work together as a group. Work together in solidarity. Work together when you know something is wrong and say something about it. In fact, he goes so far as saying it's a betrayal to the human race when you see discrimination, oppression, segregation, racism, and want to do nothing about it. Just turning your back and going the other direction. It's just going to stay there as long as we do it that way. But he's urging us to do what is right. Okay. All right. Well, that's the end of what I have to say today. I'm glad to get this second opportunity, and I hope I've said something different than I said on my first one. Looking at some of the 21 points that are given here, and I'm just going to give 3 of them. Number 1, and I read, revolt against oppression and injustice obliges every human being to struggle, suffer, and if necessary to die. Martin Luther King, to die. He stayed with it until he wouldn't give it up. And people were after him all of his life. 39 years old, assassinated. To die for the freedom that ought to be the birthright of every person. Revolt is seen as a force that drives people to defend what is right and just for every other human being. The next one. Racism is evil. Repeat. Some folks don't seem to have heard it yet. Racism is evil, wrong, and has no place in the brotherhood of human beings. It is a grave hindrance to the freedom of both the oppressor and the oppressed. The oppressor thinks he's gaining by oppressing someone. He's ending up putting himself further and further behind the 8 ball. Going back to what I said again, this is the time when wrong is being called right and right is being called wrong. And then finally, the dream of freedom must become a dream that can be equally shared and hoped for by all ethnic groups in the world. There's no such thing as a big I in God's kingdom, big I in a little U. We're all created by God, and when we're given the opportunity to help the nation or the world or where we're living in, we should do it by becoming involved in bringing about what we call being our brother's keeper, and developing the things that these men stood for. Mm-hmm. Okay. God bless you all. Thank you.
Absolutely. You know, Carl, listen, this was just as motivational as the first round. I mean, the information that you have packed into this book, guys, I said it when we first started this interview, the education is second to none. Okay, this book needs to be on everybody's shelf. A, just to know history. B, just to be educated, but also because of the stark contrasts to the oppression that we still have in today's times. This is absolutely an impactful book. You know what you got to do. Head on over to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, go directly to his personal site on freedomandrevolt.com and pick up your copy of On Freedom and Revolt by Carl E. Moyler. There's nothing more that I have to say. I mean, Carl did such a fantastic job of summarizing everything. I can't even add anything on top of it because what he said was so perfectly encapsulated. I'm just going to leave it at that. This has been fantastic. Carl, once again, thank you so much for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction.
And I thank you too, brother. God bless you.